Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with the final video in the Banner Saga. This concludes my playthrough of the hard difficulty of the Banner Saga. Great game, I really enjoyed it, but everything that we've been doing has been leading up to this. It is the final confrontation. There are some heavy spoiler implications here, some spoilers for the story, so if you don't want that, then this is not the right video for you, but I need to discuss those spoilers because they feed into the mechanics of the battle, so there's not really any way around it. So this is your last warning. This game is super old. I don't really think I need to do a spoiler warning, but just in case, there it is. So bail now if you want to, spoilers ahead. Okay, with all of that out of the way, this is a way more difficult battle than any other that we have faced in the entirety of the game so far. And it's kind of weird. There is this style of game, I've played a couple of them, where you learn these mechanics and you work through the game. And yes, it's tough and it's challenging, but all of a sudden the final battle requires you come in exactly prepared for it with new mechanics, with different things going on, or you're going to fail, and then all of that prep and all of that buildup is for nothing because there's nothing you can do to change your preparation once you're already at the final battle. So that's going to be my goal here, is to give you the information, some tips, the mechanics, how this works, things that I learned, and hopefully you can apply that to your playthrough as you're prepping for this final battle. You'll notice in the playthrough, I don't follow all these tips, right? I didn't know everything that I know now when I did this run. It was still successful, I still got through it. So there is margin for error here. It isn't the hardest battle of all time, right? I mean, you can make mistakes and get through it, which I do, and I do make those mistakes and still get through it, but there are cleaner, better ways to do it. So rather than a play-by-play of here's what I did in the video, step 1, step 2, step 3, I don't think that's as useful. There's too many variables for each turn. Yes, if you do exactly what I do in exactly the same order, I believe the enemy AI will act in exactly the same way, and so then you'll probably still get through it. But I don't think that's the right way to approach this. Instead, I think it's to give the general information, the layout, the mechanics, and then the tips to overcoming those mechanics. So here's how we're going to do it. The fight is a 2-phase fight. In the first phase, you need to have, you bring in your full squad. 2 of the members are required. You have to bring Rook and you have to bring Alette. One of them, you had to choose in the cutscenes leading up to this battle to be the one who's going to wield and shoot the silver arrow. That choice is very important and plays out in this battle. And then you've got 4 more roster slots open. So you've got Rook, you've got Alette. I think you need to bring Gunnulf. He is just your highest damage dealer. When you fight Bellower, his armor is insane, and you need a high attack person to get through it. So I think that's Gunnulf. He's really, really good at not only doing damage to a single target, but multiple targets. I think you also need to bring Yrsa, the red hooded archer, because nobody can break armor like she can. And again, that's going to be essential to doing damage to Bellower. His armor starts out incredibly high, and so you need to break it down so you can start doing more damage. Her special ability, you give her a break item, which we'll get into items in a little bit, but her special ability with that break item can be you can break up to 8 armor, I think, on a single shot, which is crucial to the battle. So Rook, Alette, Gunnulf, and Yrsa, I think, are the 4 core members of the team. And you've got then 2 final choices. I think Egil should be one of those choices. If you can keep him alive, his armor, I think he can have the highest armor out of any character in the Banner Saga 1, and that's really important. You need a solid tank to take some hits and to also take a stun, which we'll talk about, and I think Egil is the perfect choice for that. I don't use him in this video. I instead use Hakan, and I go with Oddlief. I think Oddlief is great. Her special ability is great. Having archers, once again, is very good. So I would go Egil and Oddlief, but you can go Hakan and Oddlief. You can mix in whoever you want those final 2 to be. But I would pick people who have one of 3 jobs. They can either tank and take a hit because they've got really good armor. They can deal super high damage to either armor or to health, or obviously to both if you can, because that's what matters. Anything else is going to be more of a hindrance than a help, and we'll discuss why when we get into it. So, equipping those characters, right? You want the person that you pick to shoot the arrow to have the highest amount of health damage dealing that they can have. So, increase their strength in order to do that. So, I am going to recommend that you pick Alette to shoot the arrow. So you have to let her shoot the arrow. Have Rook agree to do that, to let her shoot the arrow in the cutscene leading up to this. And the way that will work, in the first phase of the battle, you need the person who is shooting the arrow, who I recommend to be Alette. They have to use that as a special ability. So you go into their special wheel, and on top of their normal special, there'll be a second one called, I think, Silver Arrow. So you select that, but you can only select it if you're guaranteed to hit Bellower. So you need to be in range, and you need to have your strength, your current health or strength value, over his armor. Once again, the way the mechanics work in the Banner Saga, if you have less health than the opponent has armor, you have a % chance to do damage to them, one damage to them. You cannot use the Silver Arrow in that situation. So if your strength with Alette is 12, Bellower has to have 12 or less armor, because then you're guaranteed to do at least 1 damage, and as long as you can do that, selecting the Silver Arrow ability, you will complete the first phase. So, I think you should pick Alette. I think you should have her with some extra strength. There is an item in the game, or a couple items in the game, that say that they prevent the chance of a miss, or of that % chance of not doing damage. They say you'll always hit, you'll always do damage. So I thought, oh, well, that's great. Put that item on, and then no matter what, you're guaranteed to hit, so who cares? That'll make this first phase really easy. That does not work. I tried it, I put that on my Silver Arrow shooter, got into range of Bellower. He had more armor than I had strength. I had this item on that would guarantee to hit anyway, and I couldn't use the Silver Arrow. So you can't cheese it in that way, but buffing up your strength as high as possible so that you can overcome the armor and take the shot is important. So if Rook is your archer who's shooting the Silver Arrow, make sure his strength is up as high as you can go. Again, I recommend Alette. Then you're going to have Yrsa as part of the team. You want her to have as much break damage as possible. So there's like a fish hook or a world hook or something it's called that gives plus to break. Anything that does that, you want to give to Yrsa. So again, when she uses her special ability, the burn on the ground, she'll do her break plus 2, which again can be just huge. And then you want Gunnulf to hit as hard as possible. So give him the strength item, or if you want a crit chance item, if you think that's going to be better, depending on how you've modded him up, because if he does hit, maybe he'll hit for double damage. That can be good as well. And then the rest of the characters fill out as you see fit. Does Rook's item really matter? Probably not. You might want him to have more mobility so that he can move and get into range and into the positions that you want, especially if he's not your archer shooter. And the other character, Egil, if you've got him, you want him having as much armor as possible so he can, again, survive those big hits. Okay, so that's how the items play out. How does this first phase play out? Again, the goal is to get one single damaging shot using the special ability with your Silver Arrow Archer. And I'm just going to say Alette because that's who I picked in my playthrough. So, in order to do that, Bellower starts with this huge health pool. You need to whittle down his armor, and then when it's Alette's turn, she needs to step in and do the strike. A couple things that work against you there. Bellower is very strong, and he heals both armor and health every time he gets a turn. He also has this Scream ability, which does a big knockback for almost the entire screen, and it can stun, or it will stun, one of your characters. So the way that I recommend starting the battle, if you start aggressive, if you start up close to Bellower, he'll do that Scream to open the battle, and it'll mess everything up. You'll be closer to the enemy, you'll get knocked back, you'll take that damage, you'll have a character stunned, and it kind of puts you at a disadvantage. I recommend instead pulling back. When you set up your first position for your units, set them up back against the back wall, as far from Bellower as possible. It'll delay his Scream, and you can kind of get yourself set up. Maybe one of the secondary support units that Bellower has will overextend. You can take that out first, prevent some damage, and have a little bit of an easier time. So, set up back, be a little bit passive early on, Wait for that scream. If it's going to come, you don't want it to come right away. And also, I would stack your characters. The scream is going to push them back to that back wall. So you don't have to have your characters in a straight line against the back wall. I would recommend having your archers on the back line, and then having your tanks or your Varl in front of them, but have it be Varl one of the open spaces behind them with an archer, and then the back wall. So they can't be pushed back because of the other characters kind of all stacked up. You kind of get what I'm saying there. Have them lined up so they don't have any room to be pushed back by the scream. So when the scream happens, every time that I've seen it go off, it seems to stun the character who went first. So you get to make the first move. Your first character that you pick is going to be the one that takes the stun. Now, that's really bad if that's your silver archer arrow, silver arrow archer, because you need their turn to be the finishing blow, and man, if you're skipping that turn because they got stunned, that's going to be brutal. So what I would recommend, again, if you're using Egil, make him your first character to take the first turn. Put him first in line. He can make his first move. If you want, you can extend him up a little bit or just position him in the middle at the front of the pack. Then he's going to defend. That's even better. Put his defense skill up. And then if he's stunned, he's got his defense up. He doesn't need to do the damage anyway. He's just there to take the hits, so who cares? So that's my recommendation for the order. Then you need to pick off one or two of the enemies if you can, and then you need to go all in, like all at once, and you have to plan it and say, okay, can I get to Bellower with my next 3 attacks, and then my 4th attack is going to be Alette, and that will be enough armor damage to take him out. Health damage does not matter. I mean, feel free to do it if the situation makes sense, because he's going to come in next and do a big hit, and maybe if I take his health down, it'll prevent the damage to Gunnulf and keep him alive. That's fine, but the idea is you want to do armor break, armor break, armor break, Alette shoots to kill before he gets a turn and starts healing or doing damage. And so you can see how I set that up in here and was successful. The last kind of little thing here is at the end of this first phase, when you successfully hit him with the arrow, he does that scream again after you do it. So like, yes, successful hit, I got him. Then he does the scream. And the scream does 1 health and armor damage to everybody, as well as the knockback. So you can see in the run that I did, Rook had 1 health left. That scream took him down to 0, and so he carried that injury. He got injured because he hit 0 health, and he took that into the final battle, which was even worse, which put me in a bad spot. So be careful about that, because if you have a character on 1 health, and you're successful in killing Bellower, killing in air quotes for this first phase, he'll do the scream, and that character will go to 0 health, and they'll carry the injury into the next battle. So think about that. If you're in a bad shape, if 2 of your characters are going to go down, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe you just reload the save and do the battle again. That's the other part of this, right? You don't want to lose a battle this late in the game, especially if you're going for that 0 losses, and then you need to, reload. If you take the loss, does that ruin your streak? Side note, I did mess up this battle in a hard playthrough, my first hard playthrough, and it didn't cost me the achievement. This battle, because if you lose it, it's game over. If you lose any of the other battles throughout the game, that's fine, you just lose and then the story keeps going. This one, it's like, oh, you lost, game over. So it didn't penalize me for that one when I reloaded the save and then I was successful the next time. I still got the achievement, but I wouldn't risk it. If you see it going poorly, reload the save and come back in fresh. So that's the last tip for the first phase. You're going to fire the arrow, you take Bellower out, he screams, and then you go to the second phase. But to start the second phase, Bellower gets to, yes, spoiler alert, kill the character who hit him with the silver arrow. So you are going to lose a character. In my case, it's Alette. She's dead, and now you have to do this second phase with the exact same team. You're not allowed to go back. You can't make any changes. You can't swap anybody out. You can't change the order. You can't change their items. So now you have to do this second phase of the fight with the remaining 5 members of the team. And if any of them got taken out, down to 0 health, they're carrying an injury, so they're going to be coming in weaker than they normally would. And so again, this is why I recommend Egil going first, so that he can lead this again, and Bellower again will have his scream, which you have to watch out for because it's going to stun. Okay, so You're coming into the second fight, you've got to do it all over again. Belor does have less helpers with him, but I think they're more powerful. He's got a Stone Singer now, and he has these other support units. And this time, now what you need to do is the standard thing where you take his health down to 0 in order to win. But, of course, there's still another twist. In this round, in the second round, every time you hit Belor, he gets an immediate turn. So normally it's everybody gets a turn, and it's your team, then their team, then your team, then their team, your team, then their team. It doesn't matter who goes when or how you hit them or what. Special rules, Belor plays by his own rules. Anytime one of your characters does damage to Belor or hits him, he gets an immediate turn, and of course, he still heals. So, if you're up with Oddlief, and she can do a shot onto Belor, and it's going to do an armor break, 2 armor breaks, maybe 3 armor breaks to Belor, you probably don't want to do it, because you'll do that, you'll hit him for, let's say 3. Say you do a 3 armor break on him, he's going to get an immediate turn, so he's going to heal for 1 or 2 of that armor break, or maybe all 3. And then he's going to get a turn, and he's going to attack, and he's got 24 health. He's going to, like, swat somebody and destroy them. So, in that situation, Oddlief, instead, is going to want to use her special ability, right? She can lay the trap, and it can get a 3-hit all in one if you have it upgraded all the way. So, Belor can walk onto it, onto his turn, and take the damage on his turn. I don't know if that means he gets a second turn or not. I don't know if I ever got to try that, but I don't think it will. I think he'll take the hits, get pinned in place, and take triple damage, right? That's why Oddlief is there. Yrsa, she's going to do 8 armor break damage. That's worth doing. Gunnulf, you want him after Yrsa does that armor break damage, so he can do a big hit for 10 health damage himself, or 10 strength damage himself. And the big reason that we chose Alette to shoot the silver arrow is so that Rook is here for this final battle, for this second phase, because his special ability where he can blow the horn and mark the target or call to attack, I forget what it's called, but you can get a ton of hits and damage in on one hit. So you soften him up with Oddlief's arrow trap, you soften him up with Yrsa's armor break, you do a big hit with Gunnulf, then it's Rook's turn, he runs right up to Belor, gets next to him, hopefully you've got 3 people in position, one of them being Gunnulf, you do the called attack, everybody swats him, down goes Belor, and you get the win. Alette, if you want future information for, the Banner Saga 2 and 3, Alette is really good in the second and third game. She becomes a powerhouse. So you want to choose Rook to shoot the silver arrow for that reason, so you have Alette available for the other games, because she's really dead. They don't bring her back, whoever shoots that arrow. But if you're trying to get the hard mode complete, maybe you choose Alette to shoot the arrow, and you have Rook, so he has his special ability, which is really good in this first game, and then you play through on easy, and have that one be the one where Alette survives, and then you can use her in the Banner Saga 2. So, that will do it. Then you'll be successful. Belor goes down, you'll be able to see the credits roll, wrap up the story. It is an emotional one, it hits, man. This is a story of loss and struggle, no happy endings here. So, that's the end of the Banner Saga. You wrap up those achievements, and that's going to wrap up this video series. I'm going to roll into the Banner Saga 2. I think I'm going to do less video overview for them because I've already laid out kind of the mechanics of the game. You guys will get the idea, but I really enjoyed this series, and so I want to at least put some content together for them. So hopefully you're enjoying this video. Hopefully you try out the Banner Saga trilogy, and these videos helped you in some way prepare for that hard difficulty playthrough and your journey to do so. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.